Okay, so in 1776, Americans are asking a huge question. Are we still British, or are we something completely different? And both Thomas Paine in Common Sense and Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence, they basically say, we're not British anymore. We're a new people. And because of that, we should be a new nation. But what's interesting is how they make the argument, because they go about it in very different ways. So I'm going to walk through 3 key ideas from each and then compare them. Let's start with Paine. Paine's first big move is about identity. He basically says, look, Americans aren't really British. He has that famous line, Europe, not England, is the parent country of America. And what he's doing here is pretty clever. He's reminding people that the colonies are made up of all kinds of Europeans, not just English settlers. So instead of thinking of themselves as extensions of Britain, he's pushing them to think of themselves as something new. Historians like Gordon Wood argue this was huge because it helped colonists reimagine who they were. And T.H. Breen points out that shared experiences like boycotts were already creating unity. So Paine takes that feeling and gives it political meaning. Then Paine goes further. He argues independence isn't just a good idea, it's basically inevitable. And he does this in a really simple way. He says it makes no sense for a small island to rule a massive continent. When you hear it like that, it does sound ridiculous. Then he attacks monarchy, calling it corrupt and incompatible with freedom. So now there's no middle ground. You're not British, the system doesn't make sense, the government itself is broken, so independence stops being a debate and becomes the only logical option. Now Jefferson takes a different approach. Instead of focusing on culture, he focuses on universal principles. He starts with, all men are created equal. And from there, he argues people have natural rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So instead of saying we're different, he says we have rights. Danielle Allen argues that this is really about equality, not just independence. And David Armitage says Jefferson is speaking to the whole world here. Then Jefferson builds a legal case. He lists grievances against King George III, arguing the king violated colonial rights. So now the argument becomes we're justified in leaving. Pauline Maier explains this structure comes from earlier colonial declarations, so it's grounded in real political practice. And then Jefferson says something really important. The colonies are already acting like nations. They're fighting wars. They're making alliances, governing themselves. And Bernard Bailyn says this shows a major shift. Authority no longer comes from Britain. It comes from the people. So when you compare Paine and Jefferson, they're making the same basic claim. Americans are a new people who should be a new nation, but they take different paths. Paine is emotional, direct, persuasive. Jefferson is structured, philosophical, legal. So you could say Paine creates the mindset, Jefferson justifies it. And this is where Drew McCoy helps connect everything. He argues Americans were developing a new identity. This is based on independence, self-government. So in the end, independence didn't just happen because people were angry. It happened because people started thinking differently about who they were. Paine made Americans believe they were something new. Jefferson proved they had the right to act on it. And together, they turned a group of colonies into a nation.